Hello, you're welcome. I remain Mr. Sampson with the Royal Tutors. You're welcome once again. We started a series on rocks, and I'm sure you can remember we started talking about rocks. What are rocks? Okay, we said that rocks are the hardest substance on the surface of the soil. All right, then we made mention of three types of rock. We said we have the igneous rock, we have the sedimentary rock, and we have the metamorphic rock. And I'm sure you could remember in our last series, we also spoke about how these rocks are being formed. We spoke about the formation of igneous rock, the formation of sedimentary rock, and the formation of metamorphic rock. And while talking about the formation of this rock, I'm sure you remember vividly that we spoke about fossils. We said something about fossils, and that is what we're going to be looking at in this series. That's what we're going to be looking at in this series. Don't also forget that we discussed about the uses of rocks generally, okay, construction of road, okay, construction of airport, several. You can check the previous video for the uses of rocks. Now, I'm sure you might have been wondering, what are these? What are these creatures you can see on the screen? Yeah, these are called fossils. These are called fossils. We're going to look at the formation of fossils, what are the relationship between fossils and the formation of rocks. So these are examples of how fossils looks like. When you look at this slide, you will see these are examples of how fossils looks like. Now, let's go to how are fossils formed. Or better still, we can say that what exactly are fossils? Okay, now fossils are the remain or imprints of plants and animals that lived millions of years ago. That's funny, right? Yeah. Fossils are the remain or the imprint of plants and animals that lived millions of years ago. And most of the time they remain or they are usually found inside the rock. So these fossils are usually found inside the rock most of the time. All right? So when we talk about fossils, it's not just the remain of animals, it can also be the remains of plants over millions of years ago, over hundreds of years ago. So these are plants and animals that have once lived, okay? They are decomposed parts, okay, is what we look at as fossils. Now let's go on. Let's break it down, okay? Now when we talk about fossils, the plants and animals we're talking about, yeah, might have died like for a very long time. It may be a plant, it may be an animal, it might be a dinosaur, or whatever all right. So when these animals died, okay, when they die, you see that they get buried. And when they get buried, their body quickly buried by mud. You dig them into the ground, all right, you bury them by mud or using the sand to cover them, or death as the case may be. Okay, so this will help to protect them from being eaten or broken. So the dead remains of these plants and animals are usually being buried. All right, so after they are being buried, after several years, more layers begin to build up over many years. More of these layers begin to pile up, first year to the next 100 years to the next 1,000 years and many years. So as these layers begin to build up, sand will begin to pile on the top. All right, sands will begin to pile on the top. So these layers begin to press down slowly and they turn into sedimentary rock, because as the sand are being falling in, they are falling in sediments. All right, they begin to pile up in sediment. They begin to pile up in sediment. They begin to pile up in sediment. So these fossils form the soft part of the body, or like the skin, rot away. So we have the hard part of some of these fossils, especially for animals. Okay, some of the hard part includes the bones, okay, of these animals that have lived millions of years before now, or the shell. All right, so these shell and bones stay behind, and we have minerals from the ground. We replace the hard part and turn them into a stone. All right, the action of the minerals working on this hard part of these remains, for example, like the bones and the shell. So once the minerals act on them, all right, it's going to replace them and they will become a stone. All right, or probably at times their body might actually leave a shape or an imprint in the rock. In a situation whereby the minerals is unable to convert them into a stone, there can be an imprint. Okay, their body might leave an imprint or its shape in the rock. And that's why when you see rocks are very dynamic. We have so many rocks with their dynamic nature. All right, so when you see some of these rocks with their dynamic nature, you begin to look, oh, there is a presence of fossils. You could see some of them have like a little finger imprint. So some of these imprints are the reaction, okay, that takes place after the fossils, all right, have already been formed. And most of the time, some of these fossils, after staying for a long time, just become a stone, then begin to form sediments. All right, over time, the fossils is being discovered over time. Okay, you know, the rock might have to rise up or wear away. Yeah, then the paleontologists, right? The paleontologists are the ones that dig up the fossils and study them. So we have a group of scientists, okay? The paleontologists are the one that digs up those fossils and study them over time. They begin to study. When they look at this creature, oh, what can this be? These are fossils, right? These are fossils. So for fossils to be formed, all right, the decay of the plant and animals that have died over a long period of time must either be buried by mud, sand, or dirt, okay? So this will protect them from being eaten up, because if they are not properly covered, they might eventually be eaten up. Now let's look at pictures of different fossils, yeah, that are being formed and how they are being formed. You can see these are dead remains, okay, dead remains of some plants, okay, and dead remains of fishes. You can see them here, dead remains of animals, the ones having shells and the ones not having. All right, over time these are what become fossils. Yeah, these are what become fossils. And don't forget that when we talk about fossils, the action or the effect of fossils is more effective on sedimentary rock. Okay, like we said, sedimentary rock comes in sediments. Okay, over millions of years, actions of these fossils is what cause the sedimentary rock. So this picture is just telling you how the formation of these fossils takes place over time. Now, don't forget we also said that soils are made from tiny pieces of rocks. Soils are made from tiny pieces of rocks that are mixed with air, water, and organic matter like the dead leaves and plants. So the dead leaves and plants have a way, okay, of soil formation. They have their way when it comes to soil formation. So soils are made from tiny pieces of rock mixed with air, water, and organic matter. And some of these organic matter include dead leaves and animals. Include dead leaves and animals. Yeah. So you could see here on the screen, you could see some of the pieces, tiny pieces of rocks that eventually make up the soil. Now, Let's still talk more about fossils. Like we said, fossils can be the bone or the teeth of animals. Fossils can be the bone or the teeth of animals. It can also be the leaves or the stem of plants. Right? It can also be the leaves or the stems of plants. Any of these can be fossils. Now, fossils can also be the footprint or the burials that are left behind. Yeah. So fossils can be the footprint or the burials that are left behind either by plants or animals. Now, still talking about fossils. Fossils form when a plant or animal dies, okay, and get buried. That's a condition. If the plant or the animal is not buried, it cannot become fossils after several years. Why? Because there is every tendency that other plants, or most of the time, other animals might have picked them up and consumed them. All right. So the plant or animals must have died and get buried by layers of mud or sand. Must have died and get buried by layers of mud or sand. So over time, this turns into rock. Yeah, it turns into rock, but one very crucial thing about fossils is that it preserves the shape. It turns into rocks and preserves the shape. Fossils are only found in certain types of rock, most especially the sedimentary rock. We find fossils most especially in sedimentary rocks. Yeah, why? Why do we find them most especially in sedimentary rock? The reason is because they are formed in layers. They are formed in layers. Remember what we said about sediments, okay? These sedimentary rock are formed in layers and it takes millions of years for them to eventually get formed. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, about fossils. Okay, now I'm going to give you some fun facts about fossils before we round up the series on rock. I'm sure you're getting information and you're having fun in class, right? Yeah. So see you even in the next slide talking about some fun facts. Some you might be wondering, oh, can this be true? Yeah. So check it out. Some of the fun facts we have about fossils. Let's go. Fun fact about fossils. Yeah, the word fossils is gotten from the Latin word which means dug up. Okay, the word fossils is gotten from the Latin word which means dug up in Latin. So fossil is a Latin word which means dug up, when you dig something. Right, good. So we spoke about scientists that are specialists in learning and discovering fossils, and they are called paleontologists. All right. So paleontologists are scientists who study fossils. They study fossils to learn about dinosaurs, yeah, ancient sea creatures, and even extinct plants. Okay, plants that have gone into extinction. That is the work of paleontologists. Paleontologists will study about, oh, this is a fossil. When they see the imprint, when they see some funny imprint on rocks, they begin to differentiate which of these imprints are fossils and what is the source of the fossil. Is the fossil from plant, okay, or is the fossil from animals? So these are the major work that paleontologist does. Now, some fossils are extremely tiny that you need a microscope to see them. Yeah, some fossils are microscopic. They're extremely tiny that you would require the use of a microscope to be able to view them. And don't also forget that we have fossils, we have even fossils, we have the seashell that are found on the mountain. And we have those that are found under the sea. Yeah, you can find fossils under the mountain, you can find fossils under the sea. Did you get value for that? Yeah, so fossils are digged up, it means dug up in Latin, all right? And the scientist that studies them, because for fossils to be formed, it takes hundreds stroke millions of years for fossils to be formed. So we have the paleontologists, those are the scientists who studies about fossils, they study about dinosaurs, they study about ancient sea creatures and some plants that are no longer available, that have gone into extinction. Okay, so we have some fossils that are so tiny, we have microscopic fossils, so it is possible for a fossil to be microscopic. All right, yeah, it is very possible for fossils to be microscopic. You can find fossils under the sea, you can find fossils right in the mountain. So good. Happy you have joined even in the learning of fossils and about rock. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in to our videos. See you even in the next class. Bye for now.